And I will share the live stream. Let's see if it starts.
Maybe it's not working better.
Let's see, we can hear at least.
Yeah, I hear you.
Let's see. Let me just see if the live stream works here.
Currently still offline,
Not
but
off of the wrong one, yeah. But hopefully the one I just sent in, the private one, should be better now. Let's try again now. Let's see. I just started it up again. And this time it should, hopefully, stream to... Or is it just messed up now?
still offline.
Yeah,
But you have an online one.
Yeah, but it's so... Okay, this one. Okay.
Oh, but still there.
Yeah, okay. So I think it went back to the... Let me see if I can see myself here. It's the real one. I think so. Oh, why should YouTube be so good? Hello, Nikolai. Okay. So let's see. This one. So this one should
Now
work.
I see you waving.
Yes, perfect.
So are you live now?
Yeah, but yeah, I'm live now, but I messed up again because I forgot that I need to go into restream and pick an existing live stream to be able to stream to the current open live stream. I don't know. It's weird. And if I don't do that, it creates a new event in Unity live stream, and then it streams to that one. And even if I stop the stream and then switch it and stream to the new one, it keeps streaming to the old one. I don't know. Now we have one that works at least. So let me share that, and then I'll explain to people what it's all about. Hopefully it's the right one. So, what?
I hate Discord mobile. It just like it dropped the call randomly and say RTC connecting.
Oh, nice. Dusty old bones. Hello. So, are you driving, Amnesty, or are you just walking around?
No, I'm driving.
Okay, you're driving. Okay, so you're not looking at anything. Yeah.
No, I'm not looking at anything, but I can talk. Listen
That's
to me
fine.
talking.
That's fine. Hello, Quas VFX. Welcome. Okay, so what we're gonna do today is that I'm live here with Amnesty and Kelsasar on a call on Discord.
Hello.
Hello. And we're gonna talk today about well, this will be kind of the starting point of the new upcoming firing system. And in my mind, at least, the firing system will be more than just kind of a box where you can plug stuff into and fire it off. It for me, it's kind of a palette of different features that should enable or make it easier to make shows. That's my idea. So in this call, I would just put down some bullets about what your thoughts are. Also, you guys in the chat, you can tip in with stuff. But let's get some stuff down. What features do we need? And maybe Amnesty, you can explain how because I don't know anything about fireworks. So maybe can you explain what the purpose of this of a real life firing system is? I have an idea, but Can you explain
So-
maybe? So how you use it and what the
So
purpose
just
of?
out of the box, you
Mhm.
have a firing system, so you can. It's called e-fire, so it's electronically firing. So you're gonna press a button, or you're gonna time a show, and you're gonna press start, and it's gonna set everything off as you set it up.
Mhm.
So, like just to say, let's start with an example. There's some over here in the U.S. called a Cobra firing system, and you have a controller, which is what you would be firing from. You'd be pressing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever it might be. And then you have the module, which sits out in the field next to your fireworks, and you have clips going from the module to the fuse or into the first tube. So what we would probably want is we would let's just say start with a controller and a module,
Mm.
and it would need to be so that you could have multiple modules and multiple controllers active at once. If you're building a big show, that's what you would.
Yeah, so controller is the one that you either manually push the buttons or have some kind of system that timing it. Yeah. So that's the controller. And then you have modules which are the little box, where you will have kind of a little, well, it would be a wire connected to the fuse of the fireworks, right? So it knows
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how it works in real life. I mean, I imagine we wouldn't need wires and stuff like that in the game.
No,
obviously.
of course, but the concepts will be the same.
Correct. Yeah, and actually, think about it as the module that all the fireworks are getting hooked up to. Module, point one on the module going to the first thing you want to go off. Imagine it like instant fuse. That's pretty much what the wires do from the modules of the fireworks.
Yeah.
Guanaco joined
Yeah.
us.
Konako joined. Hello. We're just talking firing system, kind of learning how it is.
If you want, I can show you the code of mine so you can basically see as a basic thing because it was I made it a lot.
Yeah, I would like to look at that for sure. But now we're more talking conceptually. Yeah, what do we actually want? What do we need? So how do you control? I understand we have a controller with some buttons that is hooked up to a module, right?
Yeah.
But the module can have multiple fireworks set up to it, right? How do you control which of the ones in the module goes to what? It's like if you have a module with 10 entry points or whatever. 10.
You mean
Well, you have the main.
receivers?
You have the
With
main module, which has I don't know how many channels you want to have, and each channel is connected to one module, which is in the field.
Yeah.
And
Receiver.
each, or receiver, how Guanaco calls it.
Mm-hmm.
If you then press a button, it ignites all fireworks which are connected to this one receiver.
And that can be all at once, or you can time them.
Yeah. For that you need multiple receivers.
Yeah, but I mean, if you have a channel, okay, I couldn't do that. I was trying to draw something, but
Channel 1 or channel 2, things like this. DMX.
Well, DMX is a little more complicated
Yeah,
than
but
a standard firing system.
By the way, there's a question in the chat I just can't read.
yeah, Kras, please put it in English. But what he's saying is,
But I guess
okay.
it's about a copy and
he's just talking about some banner stuff. But please ask in English. But that's another topic. We were trying to stick to the firing system right now in this chat here, this talk.
But what you want is a firing system that when you press a key, it launches a firework, or it's a timeline.
Well, I think if we can have if I create the first thing first, so you can manually click a button and it fires off whatever you hooked up to it. That's the first step. When you have that in place, you can build a system on top of that that press this button virtually based on some timing. So the
Because, with the button, I already have in my LEM mode the key launch thing. That if you set a key on it and linked it with Fuse, it's launching. So you can just
actually,
do something like this.
I think the easiest way to maybe we need to have 3 different things. We have the controller, which gets used no matter what, or no, not the controller, the module that gets used no matter what. Those are what gets directly hooked up to whatever fireworks you're trying to set off. Then for electronically firing things one by one or whenever you want, you would use the controller. Or if you want to time a show, you would hook it up to a laptop. Maybe we could have like a model of a laptop in the game, and you would script your show on that.
Exactly. Yeah. So one system builds upon the next one, right? So the laptop that have the timing thing. Let's say we end up with something like you worked on at some point, Guanaco, with where you can load in a song and you can see the waves and you can play stuff. That would be on the laptop. So that's kind of the final step. But that would require one or more controllers that you can send messages to do stuff at certain times. And these controllers would require modules to be hooked up to stuff that needs to fire off.
Use Messenger. I'm using Messenger.
Yeah, but yes, but don't talk technical. We're not talking technical how we want to do it now. We're just talking conceptually how this should work from a user's point of view.
Okay.
So
user cares for how it works.
Exactly. If we use messages inside or events or whatever we do in the code, doesn't matter for this talk, Guanaco. Just conceptually how it should work. But I'm still confused. So you have a controller with what are you calling these? Is it that called channels, or what do you call each of them?
Well, the controller.
Each receiver has a different channel assigned to it.
Yes. Yeah, and so the controller have X amount of channels, let's say 12 channels, for instance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 12.
Yes.
Yeah, and then you say, okay, then either you hook up with a fuse or you have some kind of, maybe we will just do it like wirelessly in the game. So you have, controller 1, channel 1, and then you have the module that is listening to controller 1, channel 1, for instance. And some way of visualizing how things are put together we can figure out. So when you press that channel 1 button on the controller, the module will then ignite stuff. But as I have seen, I did a little research, and that module or receiver can have multiple connections to it. So like that can have, let's say, 10 different wires, electrical wires things set up to 10 different things. But these 10 different things will all go off at the same time, right?
Yes.
There's no kind of sub channels. Yeah, okay.
No.
Okay.
It's just a fuse. You can connect anything with the fuse tool. It's a single thing.
Okay. So a real life show, Amnesty, I guess you're the only one with excellent experience in that. How many? I mean, if you do a show, let's say you just do one song to make a show based on a song. In my head, it requires a lot of different controllers and modules, because if one channel fires off one segment or one module, let's say that being some rack with 6 shells going off at the same time, how can you? It just sounds like you need a lot of this.
Yes.
Like
you need one module and then you have a lot of receivers for that. So
would it make sense if I sent you a video of how these work?
I can also just Google it. I would just start out with just trying to get it explained to hear your thoughts on it. We can just firing system. And Cobra, is that the name?
Cobra, yeah.
Yeah,
Cobra
yeah.
Firing system.
Yeah, okay. How it works. I have done a little of this research. I just wanted you guys to explain it first so we can kind of... so let's see here. Musical firing, there is something here, but we now have something that explains it. Unboxing. Here, beginner to advanced. Okay,
But
then we have a
I think
ad.
you can just at the start of this old video that I made, there is already the thing that I have done, and you can see how, I mean, don't look at the part where there is the song, it's just the part of there is the main module.
What are you talking about? Oh, the video you just sent here?
Yeah, I just sent the old video, and there is the main module. You don't even need to check it, but there is the sub module, so every receivers, and there is a channel. And what I did is that I didn't put like a limit of channels.
Mm-hmm.
I just put a number, and
Yeah, so it's
every
just
channel that
yeah, so it can have
number,
unlimited rate basically. Yeah.
yeah,
So this video I'm showing it now, but on stream it's a little behind.
yeah, that's
Mute the video for copyright protection.
yeah, maybe.
There's no sound, I guess. There.
No, there comes sound in a moment.
Okay.
Use it.
Oh yeah, but it's muted.
Yeah.
So that stuff you have here with the, again, you will see the stream a little delayed from what I'm saying to you now, but so this part with the waves and stuff like that's kind of next level. We don't need that at first. We need the other things in the game first. So basically it's a...
I said, look, just at the channels, I'm using like just simple numbers for the channels. It goes from 0 to anything I want, but you can set a limit if you want, but there is no point of setting a limit, I think.
So basically it's so simple that it, so the controller, but in this case you have in your video here, you don't have a button to fire off channel 1, 2, 3. You have it in this wave format thing where you put in these events. So that's fine. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but in the other version that Guanaco made, instead of the numbers on that, you just press the key on your keyboard.
Yeah.
For example, P, and when you press the P button on your keyboard, then it fired off that channel.
Yeah, or numlock 1 to 9 or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
It was on the Helium mode, but I had disabled it because I needed to fix the script. I forgot, so I maybe need to fix that script. It was the keyboard launcher thing.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know if you remember.
So it is actually pretty simple. We have a controller that have X amount of channels, and then we can have the first version. Also, if we should think about how this will evolve, you have a first version that have like the small one with 3 channels. So it's a little box with 3 buttons, 3 channels, and then you can hook up X amount of receivers to that. So 2 of them are listening to channel 1, 1 of them is listening to channel 2, blah 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 blah, and then you can hit them to fire it off. And then when you have that in place, you can extend that to saying it can have 12 or 24 channels with real buttons you can press, or it can be kind of a more digital one as you have here where the channels are kind of endless because it's just a number, really. Internally, it's just a number. And then you can, so with this simple setup, we can actually build all of this. Then comes this wave thing you did with the events and all that. That's more advanced, of course, but it's still based on the idea of, just having some channels send out a message to say shoot off, and then everybody that listens to that shoot off. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
So so that's all fine. Internally, if we should be a little technical. So again, just conceptually, how do we handle this multiplayer? So, sorry?
Yeah, maybe with some, yeah.
because we could do it so that, you know, all of these channels are firing out signals that is attached to the player ID, player number.
Yeah.
But that doesn't work if you want to work together on something.
Yeah, because
But the player ID could be based on who can use the module.
I don't know. I think if you are the imagine if you are a client, you set up your module. You say the e key goes launch the channel 5. On another client, I think if it's pressing e key, it shouldn't fire. It should.
That's not what I mean. That's not what I mean. So you have a controller, channel 1.
Yeah.
A signal is sent out that somebody pressed that button, so all on channel 1 is being exploded. Player 7 is in the other end of the map doing his setup. He has something set up to channel 1. And player 4 is in the other end of the map setting something up and have stuff set to channel 1.
Yes.
Then player 5 press channel 1. Then every channel 1 receivers goes off. That doesn't work. We can't have that. Because, well, that's good if they actually did work together. Yeah. But if they are not working together, we cannot have that. And in real life, I assume we will have some different frequency so that, you know... yeah, exactly. So...
Like the receivers.
A Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
One is a client, like a work together version, and one is a not work together version.
Yeah, but I think the idea of frequencies or like Wi-Fi is more understandable. I think if you connect to Wi-Fi, then you can you create your Wi-Fi and another player can connect to it. And then there is the IDs and everything like this.
Yeah, you could say every time you set up a receiver or module, it lists all the possible controllers. You know, so you need to hook up to the right channel 1. You know, there can, you know, if there are 3 controllers, there will be 3 channel 1s. You need to know which one you need to hook up to. So they need to have some kind of frequency. I don't know if we should, maybe that's the fine name, because that would, I guess that's how it would be in real life.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I don't know if it's with real Wi-Fi. Is it Wi-Fi in real life, Amnesty? I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Wi-Fi.
Okay.
They have a lot of these. But
There's a lot of different brands, but just the one I've worked with is the Cobra. I'm pretty sure those are Wi-Fi.
Okay. But that can also work. We can just give the controller, of course, a name. You know, of course, it will have some kind of default name. But
maybe they could, when they're spawned, like let's say the four of us are in a game, and I spawn, because you need 2 things to set them off. You need the module, which you hook everything up to, and you need the controller that controls firing them. Let's say I spawn a controller and a module, they would be named Amnesty Controller
just
1, Amnesty
quickly for the chat, Amnesty is in Home Depot, so that's why you have stuff in the background. Yeah, please continue. Yeah, sorry.
But I think they should definitely be named. Maybe they automatically get named in sequence by the one player who spawns them, and that way it's defined. It's specific to that person. I think if multiple people want to work together on a show, maybe they set stuff up, but they aren't the one who hooks it up to the controller, and hooks it up to the module, because then that's when it gets too confusing. It'll get too confusing. I think there would be a lot of problems. I mean, I'm not coding it, so I don't know, but...
No, but you should see and it's good that you don't know how it's made, because you should think as a player, you know, how do you want to work with it?
Yeah, I'm thinking make it the most simple and most straightforward. One person controls the firing system. Or if you really wanted to work together on a show, you could each set up your own stations and work together and set things off when you time them together. But I think for the sake of connecting stuff to a system, it needs to be one person.
Let's just read up. There is a chat message here from Phil. Hey guys, I think in a later stage some form of timeline for a timecode show would be incredible. And you can put the firing of fireworks with names in timeline. Yeah, exactly. If you see the Gonako actually, I muted the sound here, but Gonako made that already as a mod so far. But you can see something like this in the bottom here, where he have basically loaded in a song, and then he have the wave here, so we can kind of see you can see roughly where you are in the song, and then you place these markers here. I don't know, do you show in this video, Gonako, how you set it up? You don't, do you?
I don't think, no.
Okay.
But it's just the plus on the left.
Online, you just take online mode. Is that the multiplayer mode or whatever? What is that?
It's just if you don't check online mode, it won't fire. It's a security, because sometimes you can misclick on the play or something like this, and it will fire. There is also a shortcut to play.
Okay.
If you click it, it will fire everything. And,
okay. And that would actually be a good feature too. So you can kind of you can see how your show play off, where it just shows kind of a green light every time it would fire something off, something like that. So you can see it actually match the music, and then you
in real life too. In real life, there is the armored thing.
Each person that I can lock a receiver, not a receiver, but the firing module, and each firing module is never mind how to connect that in multi.
Yeah, multiplayer makes it a little more difficult. Well, it's easy enough, but it's just it can easily go wrong.
There could also be auto respawn firework thing. That fireworks that are linked will be auto respawn.
We could also. I'm just thinking out loud now, which I guess wouldn't be hard really. In real life, distance would be also a factor. If you want to have it realistic, you cannot set it like 5 kilometers away. So I don't know if that's an annoying limitation, but in real life, you would only have a good connection within a certain distance from the controller, right?
You can change the Wi-Fi.
But just technically, out of now the RC, I mean, I can have a video receiver which on the analog thing, which can send 35 kilometers far or whatever.
Oh, that's crazy.
So
yeah, maybe it's also an annoying limitation, maybe. Yeah.
And I don't think currently we have any map that is that big.
No. And if the distance becomes too small, it doesn't really make sense anyway. So yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. But at least I have an idea of how basically it's the same as Gonako already created. But I just wanted to have a chat and see if people have had other ideas, because another thing we also talked about, because this is kind of, this is the firing system exactly, with a controller and module / receivers, whatever we call it, and that whole thing. The question is, because something that people have been asking for a while is the possibility to see the time of a fuse, which I could also add. But do we actually need that when we have the firing system? Because again, as I said, this firing system in my mind is kind of an umbrella around, over making it easier to make timed shows. So therefore, this idea of showing the time on a fuse, or have a fuse that could actually be timed, you could change the time. Maybe that's not needed if we create this one. And this.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello guys.
We are live, Jørgen, just so you know.
Oh, okay. Oh, no problem with that.
Yeah. But
Do I? One question: do I need to update the game? To show
yeah. Well, yeah. Depending on when you.
Okay. So did you push a? No, like today, did you push an update or nothing?
Nah, the update was like 2 days ago or something like that. But right now it's the same version on experimental, on the private one, and the public one, so it's the same.
Oh,
But we are just chatting here in a live stream about upcoming firing system.
ooh,
So
okay,
yeah.
working on that.
Yeah, well, I'm not still working on it. I'm starting to work on it. I'm about to start working on it. So we are just having a little brainstorm here. But really, if we boil it down, it is pretty simple, as we just talked about with the controller and the modules. So let me start with that part. And Gonako have a lot of experience in that, so I guess we can talk if there is an issue. But let me start with that, and then let's build upon that. And let's get that into the game. And we still agree it's because we can do it in two ways. We can do it as UI, or we can do it, of course, there'll be some kind of UI, but we could do it in a UI, or we could have it as a physical thing in the game. And I'm for a physical thing in the game. And I guess you agree, right?
Yeah.
The physical thing was the UI.
Yeah. But it's because you could also do much of this in pure UI, but it's not as cool. I think it's better to have kind of a spawning a controller in the game, you know. Yeah. Again,
Like I did for my mod here with
exactly.
the server.
Exactly.
The server object.
But I'm just saying it because it is also a possibility to do it only in UI, but I just don't like that idea. I like having these physical things as much as possible in the game. Also because if we get to some VR at some point, it's also more fun to have a physical thing. And also, even though it's not in VR, the thing that you actually look at the controller, set stuff up, go around, set stuff up, that is kind of the experience too. And not just putting some stuff in some UI stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's try. Let me try and work on a little simple version of this initial thing, and then we take it from there, and then I build on top of that. Cool. Yeah. And these components, of course, if we should talk a little technical, Gonako, I don't know if that makes. Will it make sense to make these things a part of the mod tools so people can make their own controllers? You know, if you want a controller that have a different look or whatever. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think that.
Oh, that was the joke.
Yeah.
No, he's been here all the time. He's in the Home Depot and driving around and stuff like that. So he's like,
Oh, okay, that's why the mic sounds a bit weird.
yeah, a bit.
Yeah, I definitely think you should be able to add it as one as a mod too, and maybe you can control how many channels, how many modules, and you know stuff like that too.
Yeah.
For like your custom system, like if I wanted to add the Cobra system.
Exactly, and that's exactly what I thought. You know, like because I will of course do some controllers and receivers that will be in the game that will have this kind of low poly style. And already I could hear Amnesty in the back of my head saying, "Oh, what if we want a real one?" So that's why, exactly, because that they will break the realistic stuff if they are these low poly things. So that is the perfect argument for actually putting these components. Of course, it will be a little more advanced stuff maybe, but I will try and make it as simple as possible. So it is more or less a matter of making the model and hooking stuff up somehow, as we know it in Unity. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but I didn't put that many notes, but I have it in my head now. I will.
Yeah, that's important, right?
Yeah.
I heard the car.
But overall, I think
Yeah,
just
you can definitely hear
function-wise, it
Amnesty
doesn't
driving
need
around.
anything in the mod tools.
Sorry?
Just function-wise, I don't see any benefits of it in the mod being in the mod tools.
Yep.
Just besides changing the
It-
look of it.
Exactly. It should only be so you could make your own model and put some kind of behavior on that one, and then it's a controller, and that's it.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
I mean, what about like in real life, different modules have a different number of channels.
Mhm.
So, like in that instance, like for example, Cobra makes an 18, a 36, and a 72 channel module.
Mhm.
You're saying you don't think you should make it that customizable, like where you can, like you would literally just in the definition or in whatever script you have on the controller or on the module, you would choose how many items you can link to each controller or each module.
I think I would make it somehow so that you need to hook it up. So when you made a model, it will have like, let's say 12 launch channel buttons, one for each channel.
Yeah.
And then you would somehow hook that up in Unity saying, this is button 1, this is button 2, this is button 3, blah, 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 blah. And with that, then I can then use that same module and then maybe not have it hooked up to buttons in Unity as such, but have it more dynamically so I can create more digital controller that have endless channels, basically. So I think we can make it somehow like that. So in your case, if it's fixed amount of channels, you would hook up one button to each channel. From the idea that the video I showed before was Gunako's more digital version, but a real one, I guess, have real buttons, right? So you have a channel 1, channel 2, channel 4, also to get that kind of, feeling of clicking these things. And then we can add upon that, we could add some logic so that you hook it up to buttons on your physical keyboard. So when you go into kind of some firing system mode, you don't control the player anymore, but you have all your buttons that map to something on the controller. If that makes sense. So you can either use, look at button 1 and press E or whatever to fire off channel 1, or you can eventually go into this firing system mode, whatever, where 1 is channel 1, 2 is channel 2, blah, blah, blah. Because then you will have that physical feeling of pressing the button and then have it firing off.
Like
So-
more user-friendly.
Yeah, and some will prefer the one and some will prefer the other one. And then there is the third version, which is Gunako's version, where it's all digital based on a wave from a file, So you place at a certain marker in time, you place firing off channel 1, firing off channel 2, and this way you can.
I think the one people would use the most, or the people would like the most, especially for building shows, would be timing. Where, like in that case, you would select your channel, select your queue, and for that queue, you would type, like UI would pop up and you would type in 2 seconds, and then you would select Q4, and that you would type in 6 seconds for that one. Like that. I think that's what people would like. To use.
When you say queue, what do you mean with queue?
Oh, the queue is like when you're pressing the number on the button. It's gonna fire that queue off.
Yeah, channel 1, for instance. So everything that listens to channel 1.
So you'll have, like, let's say you could have one controller, and a controller has 2 channels. You would flip to channel 1, go through all those queues. Let's say there's 18 queues on a channel. You would.
Now you're putting queues on top of this. So explain that.
Queues are like the ultimate. That's what's gonna actually fire it. Like that's if you're timing it, that's what's gonna fire off whatever is hooked up to the firing system. I sent a video about it. I wasn't listening, so I don't know if you watched it or not.
The manual firing one, is that one?
What?
You sent a video with
I'm trying to think. Yeah, I sent 2 videos.
Yeah, you sent one called Cobra Basic Manual Firing, and then you sent Take Your Shows to Next Level.
Yeah.
Which one is it that shows that?
The
Oh, I don't know. I didn't watch.
Okay.
I was just googling. I was just
Okay.
up on YouTube and
Okay.
picked two that I thought might be a little more simple.
Yeah, this like
Let's see. There's a dude here
The batteries
doing
in the
stuff.
controller and in the
Did I
module,
not mention?
we've got our antenna.
No.
Of course, the antennas are interchangeable, so you don't have to worry if you've got the module
A
antenna
Q-
on the
basically,
controller
a Q
or
is-
vice versa.
All right. So how do I? So the physical things that you will have, like the physical things that you would spawn into the world, are the channel and the control, or the controller and the module. On the modules, you have. It's like if you ever hooked up speakers, you basically have wires or clips that go from
to the box.
from a queue. So there's holes in there that you would like put speaker wire into, and you clip them in. They'd be clipped tight in there. That one wire would go to the fuse. That is a queue, and there's like let's say there's on certain modules there's like 36 of them, or there's 72 queues. Each queue is a different wire that goes to a fuse.
Yeah, but if you look, okay, I don't know if you can see the screen here, but in this one you sent here, there is like 18 of these where you can hook wires into, and there's 18 buttons for 18.
Let me pull it up real quick.
Okay.
What, in a car? Come on.
Well, I'm gonna pull up your live stream real quick.
Hold on.
Not if you're driving,
No phone.
please.
No, I'm
Hands
not
free. Hands free. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
good.
not-
Oh, okay. Then that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, so those are queues.
Yeah, exactly.
QUE.
These up here, the red ones up here.
Yep, the red. So you're hooking speaker wire into
Mm-hmm.
those,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what's going to send the electronic signal from there to the igniter, which is hooked to the fuse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But
So each of those are queues. I think that one is it's an 18M. So that's an 18 queue system.
But I still don't understand the difference between a channel and a queue.
Oh, so
Because
the controller is what you're going to set the channel to. So, like, let's say one module is channel 1.
Yeah, but Amnesty, I think you're overcomplicating this.
I know. But I'm trying to explain how they work.
yeah, I'm just trying to understand how it works. It doesn't have to be like that in the game. I'm just this queue thing. I don't understand how that's different than a channel.
Think about it as
Well, I mean,
one
if
fire.
you're,
You have multiple
separating
firing.
them in the game.
Yeah.
Okay, 3 people said something there. I didn't get it.
Yeah, complex.
Sorry.
See it as basically multiple firing systems
Mm-hmm.
in this video. And for example, if I have 2 songs, I would then use, for example, 2 of these things in total. One for song A and one for song B, and then I can go, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and each time it shoots the connected fireworks
Mm-hmm.
for each channel. Or each queue, how Amnesty say.
Yeah, because I would think if I press 1 here, a signal is sent on this 1 up here. Again, you will see the live stream a little behind, but I press the 1 button, and then the signal from this 1 red channel with the wires up here will be sent out to something, and then something will happen on that one. Yeah. And that can fire off 1 or 100 things basically at the same time. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But it goes out from that.
If you want to,
If you have 100 things fused together
Yes.
Yeah.
for
Exactly,
one
then-
igniter, for one queue, then yes, that would
Yes.
do that.
Then,
Yeah.
then with them.
Basically, there from the 1 you would use the instant fuse and connect that to the firework.
That's actually how it. Yeah. And
Okay, maybe because now I see the channel changes here. Okay, I think I get it now. So let's say, okay, you look at this picture here. So you have channels down here. So this one is set to channel 1 right now. So I hit 1 here and it fires off. Well, in this case, I guess only it works wirelessly because in this case there will be only 18 here. But so channel 1 have 18 queues. Channel 2 have 18 queues, but it's hooked up to something different. Is that how it works? So like,
Yeah, so you would essentially have different channels so that you don't accidentally light your finale.
Yeah,
up.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So channel 1 have 18 queues. Channel 2 have 18 queues. Channel 3,
Correct, yeah.
18 queues. Okay, yeah. Okay, now I get it.
And
He gets
so
it.
that thing on the left-hand side, that is your module.
Hmm.
The thing on the right-hand
what?
side, that's your controller. You can see the button,
Huh?
like the gray buttons down at the bottom of.
Oh, yeah, because this one is what you will hook up to the fuses. That's the red one, yeah. And the one to the right doesn't have anything hooked up physically.
Right, yeah, that's what you'd be sitting back in your chair pressing.
Yeah, okay.
To actually,
Yeah, exactly.
But I
You
guess-
can't do anything.
But I guess in our setup, it will be simpler. Like, you know, the receiver / module thing would just be something you hook up to and set to. Okay, this is channel 2, Q1, whatever.
yeah. If
But-
you want to make it easy, you could not do channels at all.
Yeah, okay.
Each module, I think maybe that might be easier. It's a little less complicated.
Hmm.
Even better, yeah.
I think if somebody wants to use, let's say you do 24 queues on each module,
Hmm.
and you hook up 24 different fuses, one to each queue, then you need to spawn another module to
Yeah.
get another 24 queues.
Yeah.
I think maybe for the sake of simplicity,
Hmm.
channels completely out of it.
Hmm.
If you want to, depending on whether or not what a player might think is. easy to
Is it
understand,
spelled like
all the
Q, like or is it just Q? CUE. Okay.
CUE. But if you want to, you could call the queues channels in the game. Because that's what they were called in the like when Panini made them.
Yeah.
That would resonate a little easier with people.
Yeah, it's simple to understand, but yeah, and if it
They're called queues.
Yeah, and if we, but really, you could also, what we are essentially talking ourselves into is basically that the controller itself is a channel. So you spawn one, and we just talked about before that it should have its own like name. So that is basically channel 1. So you spawn one, and it have 18 queues or channels.
Yeah.
If you need more than that, you spawn another one, and it will be called controller 2 or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And then that one has 18.
Just make it
Yeah.
clear,
Okay.
Not too complicated.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess maybe the easiest way to start and like the easiest way to explain it and make it easier for the player to understand, like I said, just leave channels out of it. Like just leave channels out of it and do, like you said, 20 or 24 queues on each module. The player hooks their stuff up to that, and they spawn another module, hook different stuff up to that. And then on the controller, if you wanted to do it, you could either, each module has to have its own controller, or you could do the channels part, or the switch between modules on the controller and just use the same buttons.
Yeah, but then we are back to changing the channel on the controller, having one controller with,
Well,
you know.
you're not changing channels. You're changing which module you're controlling.
That's the
Do
thing.
you understand what I'm saying?
No, that's even more confusing, I think.
So, like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I
let's
think
say
so, yeah.
Let's say each player, let's say you spawn 3 modules and you fill all of them up with stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you have 3 of them spawned. You spawn one controller, which is what you're physically in the game controlling to light stuff. Let's say you have 3 modules. You switch to module 1 on the controller, you fire everything, then you switch to module 2 on the controller, you fire everything, you switch to module
Yeah, but
3 on the controller, you fire everything.
Okay, I think it's because I think it's because in real life you would have a module is a more advanced thing. I think in the game, I think a module just, you set that up to one controller, one channel, one queue. That's it. Because else it's confusing. If you can have one module.
The module holds all the queues. Would it make more sense if I drew a diagram? Like if I drew.
I think
Yeah, it would be a good talking point. Yeah.
Especially, yeah, maybe then.
Yeah, and please do it while you're driving and taking care of the kid. That would be the best. No, but at some point, draw a simple diagram of what you need, and then we can have a. That won't be in this live stream, of course, but we will just talk about it in the.
Right now, I'm home now.
Okay.
Mania,
Mm-hmm.
I just sent a really, really easy layout video on just a two-channel in this case, on how I would translate it, because in Germany we would use it as channel A and channel B.
But I think for our own sake, even though it's a little confusing for me because I know how I would build this for myself, but I wanted to be as close to reality as possible, so that because else we will have people coming in and saying, "Oh, that's not how it works in real life." But at the same time, we cannot have it one-to-one with real life. But use the same terms, use the same kind of logic to how it works in real life. Anyway, let's see here. There's nothing we need to. It's German. Okay, let's see. But it's in German, so we are kind of messed up. Okay.
Visually, it's okay.
Okay. You have like the igniter, which
Mhm.
you can connect the firework and to the receiver in the middle.
Yeah.
So
And then you have a 1 and 2.
A or A and B, and then you have the controller module or the sender in this case with channel 1, 2, 3, 4, or in this case A and B. If you press
1, 2, yeah.
channel A, it will fire off the fireworks that is connected to channel A.
Yeah.
And channel B and so on. And if you then have a queue for like on a later point where you have it connected to music, like okay, fire channel 1 or Q1 at second 3, the next one at second 4, the next one 4.3, whatever.
Sorry, but we need to go. So bye bye.
Yeah. Okay. Bye bye.
You can go. Bye.
Bye. Oh, happy
Bye-bye.
Easter.
Oh yeah. Happy Easter. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay, well, it's gone.
Yeah. So, but what if you then have 2 of these in the middle? But okay, then they will in this case they would both listen to A and B. So if you click A on the controller, it would fire off A on both of them. In this simple case.
Easier, just ignore one channel of them and just say it for just one button in this case, or just one. So each receiver would have their own channel. That would make it easier, I think. But that would basically... I don't know how Guanacos works, as he never released that mod so far, but that was basically how Panini's would have worked. And I think that...
What do you mean about Guanacos with the timeline?
As I never used his
Okay.
mod, so I don't know how it's...
No, but forget the timeline for now, because essentially it will just be triggering what we already could do physically, with buttons. So it have to work with buttons anyway, So it's this channel queue controller thingy that we need to solve, or I need to understand at least.
As well, with
Yeah.
button 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Or no, his was the time one based. Like if you press it, then you can have a queue on how many on the time lag based. Like fire after 10 seconds or something.
Yeah, but I'm more trying to understand the connection between these two. I understand the fuses are put into a module or receiver, but how this button controls this one. Yeah, it's easy here because there's one-to-one. Here it's easy because this is a one-to-one thing, like this one is this one, and the number 2 is B or whatever. But it's more like when it becomes a little more advanced, it's more how that is set up. But let's see if Amnesty's
There's a question on how many buttons you have at the end on your keyboard if you want to make it button-wise. And
in this video.
no, I mean for you in real life or in the game. Because I just have a certain amount of keys that I can use on my keyboard.
Yeah, and that's where I think the channel thing comes in, because then you have 18 physical buttons, but because you have channel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you have 18 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
All right, so I just sent you.
Mhm.
I just sent
Yeah,
a
I see the
picture.
picture here. Yeah.
Yeah, let me just download so I can open it here.
So this is if we're leaving channels out of it. I know I wrote CH on the top, but that top controller, imagine instead of it CH, it'd be switching between module 1, 2, and 3.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be module plus or module minus to go from 1 to 3.
Mm-hmm.
So each of those modules, like each of those numbers on the modules, they hook into basically fuses.
Good call.
So
You would use that controller, and let's say you start on channel 1, or you start on module 1.
mm-hmm.
You would, fire 1 through 20, then you would switch, press plus,
Yeah.
to module 2,
Yes.
fire 1 through 20, press
Yeah.
plus again, and then switch to a module 3, then you fire 1
Yeah.
through 20.
Yeah. But I think that's what I missed. Because in my mind the module was just a one-off. So module would listen to channel 1 on the controller, and then when you press that, everything on that module 1 was going off. But I see this is more.
In real life, this is how it works, except each module also has channels. So you can fire, instead of there only being 20, you can have
multiple. Yeah. Count times. Yeah.
Yeah, multiple on just one channel. Yeah.
But I think this would be to at least get a start of it in the game. This would be the most simple way to do it.
Yeah.
That way you don't have to spawn. If you have 20 modules for a huge show, you don't have to have 20 controllers too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why this channel thing. I think the channel name makes sense. So the controller have and the queue is the 1 to 20, right?
Yes.
So it's channel 1, Q1, channel 1, Q2.
The queues are on the modules.
Yeah. But they're also on the controller. Because, you need to firing off channel 1, Q1.
On the controller, those
Yes.
are the buttons to do it.
Yes.
On the modules,
Yes.
those are where they hook up the
Yes.
queues.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Slowly, it's getting.
I think I got it. I like this. This makes sense in my mind.
I definitely agree.
Yeah. And I like the channel name too. I like the channel name too. Because again, remember we don't have any story-driven thing in the game or anything right now, but you could do one where the channel thing is not shown at all. But because it's hard-coded to channel 1. So you just have a controller with 6 buttons that you can hook up, So with this system, if we hide some of the information, we could have a simple one, for people to use in simple scenarios, and then we could have more advanced ones that shows more information, like you can change the channels and stuff like that. But anyway, I think this makes sense, and I don't think it's very famous last words, but it's not very hard to build.
Famous hard words,
Yeah.
Hopefully everything will work well.
But it will be hard to most likely to save in Blueprint and load again and blah blah blah. But anyway, I think this makes good sense. But the module of receiver, is that it's two names for the same thing, or is it just it depends?
You could call it either one. You could call it either of those. Because basically the module receiving the signal from the controller.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you could technically call it a receiver too.
That's exactly what I was thinking. That receiver might makes more sense. In the sense of it's receiving the message to do something. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
That's essentially what it is. You could call it that.
But just the one thing where in the module and the thing that you draw for the game, I think they're still missing. How will I connect with the in-game tools fuse to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10?
Yeah.
The only thing that I see it is I would have individual receiver then, which called module 1 receiver 1.
Yeah, but then how you connect it? Because we could, of course, we will use the in-game fuses, the fuse tool thing. That will make sense because that's what people are used to. So some way of that. The problem is, how do you connect it then? But I guess we.
It's extremely crowded. Just
Yeah.
connect
Yeah.
20 lines to this thing.
Yeah.
No clue which thing is connected.
Yeah.
to
No,
what.
I think you would do that through UI.
And then connect it to the fireworks via UI.
Via UI. Yeah, well, you would, like, let's say,
I have 20 times the
I'm not-
same single shot, and then I have a UI which tells me 20 times the same name. Which one is it?
Yeah, or else we should keep it more simple and have a module only have one thing.
Exactly.
So like make modules basically just have one queue, because that would make it easier to hook up. That would make it simpler.
you have
Or-
500.
Or you need a receiver module which corresponds to the module.
I don't understand what I mean.
Separate.
Oh, I have one more receiver now with has just one channel, and I can connect this module 1, channel 1,
Mm-hmm.
module 1, channel 2. Then I have 2 receivers, 3 receivers. Because then the fuse, then I only have to connect to one receiver which has then only one queue in it. But the
Yeah, that-
module would connect to that receiver.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay.
So back to the
That becomes.
that I sent you.
Yeah.
Think about as the remote with the 2 buttons as the module 1, 2,
Hmm.
and 3 here.
Yeah. Because you're right, hooking it up would be kind of messy.
So I'm thinking for hooking it up, let's say you go to the module and you have Q1 selected. You would press, you would press a button to enter selection mode, and you would go over and you would left click on firework, and then that would.
I think this sounds complicated.
Yeah, the sound was a little glitchy there, honestly. Couldn't hear you all right.
Mode, and
This-
you would walk over to that firework and left click on that to hook it up to Q2.
Yeah, or something happens when you come with a fuse. When you have the fuse tool, it's connected to some kind of fireworks. You go over, you look at the module, then some kind of UI or changes to it grows, so you can easier pick which one of them.
Oh, so how about this? What if you go over to, like, okay, you have 20, let's say you have 20 items spawned, and you have your module spawned where you can hook 20 things up.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a different type of fuse instead, you got the different speed, but then you have one that's specifically for
this.
interacting with the firing system.
Maybe like different-
Yeah, also because all the fuses we are talking about here doesn't have any time, because it's instant always.
Yeah. So you have a separate one that's completely. It doesn't have a line going to and from or anything like that. You hook it up to. You like click on whatever item. Like let's say the first you want this item on Q1. You'd click on you pull up that fuse tool, and you'd switch it to the one for the firing system. You click on that item, then you go over and click on the module, and it would have you select what queue you want it hooked up to.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
That way, you're not hooking it up to you have to make sure you get it on Q2, Q3, Q4 because it's really small and it's going to be really crowded. I think that something like that would be the best, where instead of hooking a fuse up from the firework to the module, but instead of it physically being hooked up and you can see it hooked up, it pops up with UI saying what queue do you want this attached to.
Yeah, or it could also be some in-game UI that pops up out of the module. So when you look at the module, this one shows up with like all the queues, and then you pick the one you wanted to connect to. The problem is what how do you remove one? And then you need to go to the fireworks and clear it out, because you can't.
You go to the firework. You just how
Yeah.
you do with the regular key tool.
Yeah,
You go to the
yeah.
firework And you right click it and it removes it from the queue,
Yeah.
and it'll clear that queue up.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the best thing. That way you can have 20 lines of queues running from each module.
But we still have to have some kind of way to visualize it, because very quickly you cannot remember what you hook up to what. So you have to have some way to see it.
In that UI that pops up, right click, or when you left click from the firework to the module, it can pop, an entire screen can pop up, and it can have all the modules listed, and it can maybe show you an icon of what you have hooked up to it.
What? There's no connection? That doesn't sound realistic.
Yeah, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a little sense. I don't know exactly how the UI should be, but at least we
I mean, it can literally just be how the inventory UI is. Maybe it looks a little different, so you know you're on the firing system. But like, let's say
I would just really like to stay in real world kind of UI and not have something to pop up like the inventory.
Oh, you want real world UI?
No, but what I mean is, like, I want something that it can be some kind of UI, but I would like it to be something that is kind of connected to the stuff you are looking at. So like not a
If you go back to the
you know what you
receiver thing that
if you're looking at an item, if it's hooked up to a module, maybe it already says the item name. Maybe it could also say what module and what queue it's hooked up to under it.
Yeah, we have some UI challenges to figure out.
But then I still think this tiny receiver with a one channel on it, where I can just choose like channel 1, Q2, and then connect just
That is the way Gonago had it here is more simple, right? So it looks like he have one module, if you see the video I'm showing here, he have one receiver that is hooked up to one channel, basically. Yeah, you can see again, you are a little behind. Yeah, so we just have like, and this way you don't have the problem, because you only have one connection point, and everything connected to this one is, and it could be also Q, so it could also be channel 4 Q1, but everything connected to this little receiver goes off at that point. So that would make the fusing part much easier, because then you have you
show you don't want everything to go off at once.
No, but it's much easier to connect and figure out if you have one receiver having one channel and one queue.
So you're saying you can only have one thing connected to each receiver?
No. You can have multiple things connected to one receiver, but that receiver and everything connected to it goes off at one channel and one queue. So basically,
it's really like Panini's remote system
yeah. And I think it's made like that because it's the simplest way to hook it up.
With Panini's thing, you timed it. You typed in the time you wanted it to go off. It didn't all go off at once. If you're building a show, you don't want everything.
But timing, for this talk, let's forget about the timing thing, because that's not important right now.
I'm saying you would have to do that if you did it that way.
You
don't want everything to go off at once.
No. It will be essentially be the same as we just had on your drawing, but each of your, I don't know if you look at the screen now, but we have a controller, we have a module, and then in your drawing you have 20 queues on that one module, right? I would spawn each of these queues as one receiver, basically. So you
500 items are going to have 500 queues, or you're going to have 500 receivers.
If you want to connect, if you want to shoot 500 fireworks at
different times, yes.
Then yes, if you want to shoot 500 items at the same time, then you just connect it to one receiver.
Yeah.
if you're building, but that, I mean, that doesn't make sense. If you're building a show, that's what you want to do. You don't want everything. But not only, it would tank performance too. If you're firing everything at once, that's what instant fuse.
No. It essentially would be the same as you suggested. It would just be, instead of you having one box that have 20 queues, we would have one box with one queue, then another box with one queue, another box with one queue. So you could kind of, so there's only one connection point. So you end up be able to do the same as you have in your drawing, but each queue would be a tiny little box that you spawn. So there would be, the module will basically be a little box with one queue.
Well, that doesn't make sense though, because then you're going to have 500 of them. If you have 500 items in the show.
No. If you have 500 different launch times, you would, yes.
Right. Well, if you're doing a show of 500 shells, you're not going to fire them all at once.
No.
Even if they're 2 seconds apart.
No. But it eventually will end up being the same. But you're right that you would have to spawn more items. Where you, in your case, you have one module that have 20 queues. That's one physical thing in the game, and you can hook it up to that. But you could also have one module with one queue, one module with one queue, one module with one queue, and have 20 of them. Then you would have 20 queues again, but you would have 20 individual hookup points, because you would fire things off at 20 different times, or based on different channels. Because it's easier to hook up, because then it's a one connection point. So one module with one queue, that's one connection point. Another module with another one queue is another one. So you want to have...
When you're saying module, you mean you're spawning a box.
Yeah.
And hooking a fuse up to it. Then you're spawning another box, hooking a different fuse up to it.
Yes. Yeah, or 5 fuses to that one.
Well, you could put as many fuses as you want to each one, but if you don't want to fire everything all at once, then I think if you're doing it the way I grew up, and you spawn one receiver with 20 queues on it, or 10 queues, or 5 queues even, however, more than one queue on each receiver, then you can also do it the way you're saying, but you can also be even more precise the other way.
Precise-wise, it will be the same, but connection-wise, it will be easier because it's individual things you can connect it. It's only about but
fused spaghetti again. What you're saying is pretty much the way
I see fused spaghetti in yours, because then I'm connecting 5 different or 20 different fireworks to the exact same model, which has 20 different timings to it. So the other one I know, everything which I'm connecting to this thing will fire at this time. If I want to have it 10 different times, I know, I have to spawn 10 different receivers for it.
It will end up being the same, but you have a point, Amnesty, that performance-wise, we will have more boxes, potentially. We will have more boxes.
If you hook up 5 things with instant fuse and they all go off at exactly the same time, that's a lot worse for my...
But it has nothing to do with when it goes off.
One channel, I can do the exact same thing with yours. I can connect 5 different fireworks to Q1.
When the UI pops up with whatever queue you're choosing, you would choose the delay too. The amount of time between when you press that button and when that firework is off.
Now you're putting some delay on top of it. So there can be a delay on a queues too?
That would be the only way to... That's how paninis work. You type in the timing on there too.
Yeah, but I don't think that makes sense here in this, because timing-wise, that's when we get to the scripted shows, the timed shows later on, and that is just a matter of pushing in code or in whatever, make the system push the right buttons at the right time. So what we're talking about now is just to hook up the buttons, the controller, the modules, and the queues, how to hook that up, and firing it at the time is a different thing. that works on top of that logic, if that makes sense. So forget about timing stuff. We only focus right now about how to push a button on the controller and something happens with some fireworks. And we are essentially talking about I still agree that the drawing you made, Amnesty, is pretty simple, but it's advanced enough to do pretty advanced stuff. The only problem is the way how we should be able to manage the hookup of stuff without having fused spaghetti, basically. And that was why I said maybe it's easy also to understand and work with if a receiver is basically a receiver is listening to one channel, one queue.
Also, I think it's a good thing if I can, with the one queue, one channel receiver thingy, if I can have multiple receivers on the same.
Yeah, you can.
Because
Yes.
then if I have a
So
on one side of the town and on the other side of the town, which are supposed to do that.
you have 5 rockets in the right side and 5 rockets in the left side going off at the same time. Then you would just have 2 receivers that was set up to have listening to channel 1, Q1. Then everything would
in the middle, which I
yes,
have to connect.
yes. And then you would have 2 other receivers hooked up to channel 1, Q2, for instance, because you want these 2 shells to go off at the same time.
Are you referring to the modules, or are you saying? Are you essentially calling the receivers channels, or?
No, I'm calling it channels to have kind of a yeah.
A receiver, I would say, is the box, and I can then set the box to channel 1 or channel 2, channel 3, channel 4.
Yeah, and a queue number. So you spawn a receiver, and then that one is being set up. You somehow look at it and say, okay, this one is listening to channel 1, Q1. Everything you hook up to that with the normal fuse system will go off when that is triggered. So back in your controller, you can change the channels. Of course, you have channel 1, and then you have like 18 or 20 buttons in Amnesty's example here in the controller. So it's set to channel 1. And when you hit button 1 or Q1 on that controller, everything listening to channel 1, Q1 goes off. And you can have 0 or 100 modules listening to that signal. So it's essentially the same as Amnesty Draw, except that the queue out on the launching part is different.
So what you're describing is pretty much exactly what the fuse nodes do right now.
Yeah, basically, except you can.
Fuse nodes are going to hook up to the controller.
You could call that.
What you're going to have is the fuse nodes hooked up to a controller. Is that?
Yeah, basically, but with a wireless connection. Yeah. You can think about it as the fuse nodes, basically, and then just say, okay, this fuse node goes off when channel 1 Q1 is triggered, for instance, is pressed. Which is the same as you have in your drawing. It's just called module 1, which could be set up to channel 1, and then there's a Q1 on that one. I just
think there needs to be a little bit more control with timing. Like, let's say you have 100 shells, you don't want to have to press 100 different buttons.
Nope.
You
don't have to.
You could have one let's call it a receiver. Like what I have written there as module 1, 2, and 3. Let's just say that's receiver 1, 2, 3. Let's say you hook 20 shells up, one to each queue, and you should be able to type in the delay and say module or receiver.
Yeah, but that
1,
is version 2.
The delay and the
We are at shoot it at button press. Version 2 then will be timeline. Basically.
Yeah. Which is just a matter of pressing the right buttons at the right times. But it is essentially the same.
What do you do if you have more than 10 queues? Or more than 9 queues?
You press.
Like you can't press 10 on your keyboard.
Press
You don't have a
picture
10
up
on your
or
keyboard.
picture down.
No, but when let's say if you take your sample with 20, the way you get above 20 is switching the channel. So you have 1 to 20, channel 1, 1 to 20 on channel 2, 1 to 20, channel 3. Yeah.
No, but I'm saying if you're pressing a button,
Mm-hmm.
are you physically clicking a button in the game, or are you pressing a button on your keyboard?
Well, that's it can vary. I think we should have buttons on the thing in the game, so you kind of look at it, press, and then it goes off. But the problem with that is that you're looking down while you're pressing something, and then have to look exactly, and that's why I'm saying that we.
The delay would come in well, because you can press it and you can set. If you want to watch your whole show, you start the delay at 5 seconds. Then you time things for Q1 5 seconds, Q2 7 seconds, Q3 10 seconds, Q4 15 seconds, and you can watch the show that you made rather than staring at a controller pressing buttons.
But that's the next step, I think. Yeah, that's the next step. If you are building a timed show or just a sequence show, basically, that is the next step.
I feel like that's what people want the most. Like, I feel like that should be the base.
Yeah.
That should be what you start with.
But the buttons have to be in place. It needs to work first. All the connection and how things are put together needs to work first before you can time it with because the timing is basically but just a thing saying, okay, at 3 seconds, channel 1 Q1 send signal. 5 seconds, channel 1 Q2 boom, send that. But all these connections between the fireworks and the cues and the controller need to be hooked up first for this to work. So that's why I'm focusing on that first. Because you are right, you don't want to look at buttons and pressing because you can't see the show then. But that is the first step. And if it's a physical button on the keyboard or on the controller, it's not that important really. Well, it is important because the physical keyboard you can step back, look up and press 1, 2, 3. So of course that is important because that will give also a more physical feeling of pressing a button and seeing it blow off. That, I guess that would be a nice feeling, just and see that thing goes up. But again, all the connection and the way you hook it up needs to be in place first before you can trigger it anyway. If that makes sense. But anyway, I think I have a starting point. So let me do something with this. Yeah, let me do some stuff with this because essentially I think it's actually fairly simple. Again, famous last words, but yeah, you get the idea. Yeah. So let's try that. Let's take it for a test and then we change it. And build on top of that. But this drawing is really good, I think, to understand the first part. Amnesty's drawing here.
I mean, he draw it like with the channel 2 or like the channel plus and minus.
Mm-hmm.
So what you can do is like use
that's going from receiver to receiver, not
okay.
Pretend that doesn't say channel. Pretend that just says receiver 1, receiver 2.
Oh, that's what you mean. Okay.
No, but I think channels. Yeah, I think channels are fine. I think it's a good.
Channels are good.
Yeah, I think that's good, right?
You can call them modules, but each module is a channel.
Right.
I think that might get a little confusing though, so it might just be better to have a button on the receiver that says, a button on the controller that says module 1, module 2, module 3, module 4, whatever.
Yeah, except that you could have 2 modules that are listening to the same. So as we said, yeah, exactly. So like let's say you have 5 rockets that needs to go off in different sides, in different sides of the show at the same time. That would be 2 different modules because they are physically long from each other, but they will be listening to the same signal from the controller to go off at the same time.
Yeah, you set the module to.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I have an idea. So let's give me some minutes, but it will take more than minutes. But let me work at some first prototype on this, and then let's see how it.
What happens?
Yeah, and it will not be perfect at first. That's for sure.
No.
But let.
Don't worry, we'll give you negative feedback.
I know.
Definitely weren't gonna let you know when we hate it.
Yes, that's sure. I know. Okay, but cool. 1.5 hour. Whoa, that was a long talk about.
As we were discussing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But really good feedback. I didn't do many notes, but I will try and sum it up now and put it after I end this live stream. And then I will do a first version based on that. Cool.
Sounds good.
Yes. But thank you for joining. And I will close the live stream now. And then afterwards I will say goodbye to you guys in the voice chat.
Yes.
But I'll close the live stream now at least. And then, So thank you for watching and see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.